Hello, and welcome to the first installment of virtual book recommendations being offered through the Children's Room at Dover Public Library. My name is Mystina Harris, and I'm one of the children's librarians here at DPL. I hope to provide a monthly book corner recommendations for you and your children, highlighting some truly fantastic and wonderful new books in different genres. So we'll talk about picture books, we will look at nonfiction books, sometimes we'll look at early readers or graphic novels, and also middle grade fiction. So each month I will offer a couple of recommendations for books in a different genre for different aged kids. This month I'd love to highlight two truly beautiful picture books, new picture books in our children's room. They are The Wishing Balloons by Jonathan Voss and Lovebirds by Jane Yolin. Both of these titles deal with a couple of issues that kids might experience growing up, about kids maybe moving to a new town, a new school, or finding themselves in a new family situation, and they might be experiencing some loneliness or some sadness. So the first one is called The Wishing Balloons. The pictures are truly gorgeous. I won't be reading the story to you, but I wanted to show you what some of the pictures look like, how the book is set up. And it's a story about a little boy who moves to a new town, and his we don't know yet what's making him sad, what's making him lonely, but there's a little girl who lives next door, and she's very curious about meeting him and maybe helping him to feel a little bit better, as she can tell in all her little girlness that he's a sad boy. So the story is about how she very slowly gets to know him, and the wishing balloons are actually notes that the little boy has been writing and sending off into the sky, almost like a prayer, but a wish for certain things that he's needing, that he's feeling. And each time he sends a wishing balloon out, the little girl finds it. The little girl next door finds it. And so she starts trying to make plans on how she can help him. But ultimately what it comes down to, the best that she can do for him is just to sit quietly with him and be his friend. So it takes a while, but the two become really good friends through all different seasons. The book shows them sitting together and just being at peace with one another. There's a truly fantastic picture towards the end of the book that shows them seasonally that they've learned to become friends and hang out together. This is one of them sitting on a bench between their two houses. So the message of the story is that even though small children may be experiencing sadness, they may be experiencing all kinds of strong feelings, and they're not able to voice them necessarily. They might not have a wishing balloon they can send up into the air, but they can be understood by other kids and by other adults, just by providing friendship for each other and just by sitting together quietly, and the same kind of companionship that all children are looking for. Anyway, truly beautiful pictures, wonderful simple text, and again about celebrating the friendship between two new friends, and how we can help one another without really saying a lot. That human companionship, even for children, is extremely important to their growing needs. That's The Wishing Balloons. And then the second book is called Lovebirds by Jane Yolin. Jane Yolin is an author who's been around a long, long time. She continues to astound us with fantastic text and pictures. This story is also about someone who has a child who has moved to a new town, and doesn't have any friends, and is feeling those experiencing loneliness, experiencing the thought that nobody understands them. So it has a little boy and a little girl in it, and again, it is about finding common ground. So for these two kids, what they both discovered that they like to do. There's one who's just arriving in the new town, doesn't know anybody, doesn't speak to anybody. What these kids discover about each other is that they both love birds. And the little boy who moved to the new town was thinking that nobody was going to understand that about him, that he just loved to sit and listen to birds, their calls and looking at their colors. And most of the kids he was meeting so far in his new school or in his neighborhood, they weren't interested in those kinds of things. But look how gorgeous the pictures are. There's pictures of crows and blue jays, and he is able to distinguish the different calls of the birds, and he writes down everything he hears and everything he sees. So in his neighborhood, he ends up meeting a little girl who also listens to the calls of birds, and they have a very different and unique shared interest in listening and watching birds. So at one point, the children are calling out to the birds, and they're mimicking the sounds, and they don't realize that they're actually talking to each other. So they're calling each other with their bird calls, and this is when they're meeting in the forest for the first time. So it's just a truly lovely book about shared friendship, shared interests, and how there is someone out there for everyone. It kind of gives you that little message that you might think you're completely unique. You might think that you have nothing to say to somebody else, but there's always another person out there, another friend, even if it's just one friend who we realize can understand us. So again, luscious pictures, lovely text, another beautiful book by Jane Yolin. So these are two new picture books in the children's room. You can find them in our new picture book section. And there's lots of other wonderful new books that are coming out this season as well, and in all different genres. So if you enjoyed my recommendations, come on in, take a look at these books, and some of the other newer ones that we have. If at any time you ever need a recommendation for anything that your kids are looking for, cramming for, if you're just looking for something fun for them to read or to be read to, or if you're looking for a specific issue that you're hoping to help your kids with, we have lots of books about that too. So these two particular books were about looking for friendship, feeling alone, feeling like nobody understood them. But there's lots of other issues that our children's books can deal with in a very quiet, sweet way, and they can still enjoy rich text and rich illustrations to go along with that. So thank you for joining me today for our first virtual book recommendation. I hope you'll come back and see me again next month. If at any time you have questions or are looking for other types of recommendations, please stop into the children's room. Any of the children's librarians will be able to help you. So thanks for joining me. See you again next month.